It's Luke Howard live. Thank you. Woo! Thank you so much. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to Britain's brightest, best radio show. Eager and raring to go, as always, as I am on this show. It's Thursday, the 18th of February, my last show of the week. Don't worry, I'm here all next week, so don't worry, I'm here forever and ever and ever. I'm always here, so I don't know why I'm crying. I'm only going to be away for 3 days. Lots of things to look forward to on the show today. Lots of things to talk about as well. But first of all, hope everyone is well. And here's how you can get in touch with the show today. You can email the show. It's GaryJHoward68@hotmail.com. And you can also email the other email, which is 345-457@student.hrc.ac.uk. You can also email my colleague who presents on Friday, my best mate, Michael Walker. It's 344-77@student.hrc.ac.uk. And his other email, which is mdwalker it's mdwalker2002@icloud.com. And that's another email you can get in touch with me as well. You can also find me on Instagram. It's the Luke Howard fan page. And you can get in touch with us anyway of that way. And I'll be happy to get back to and mention you on the show. Okay, coming up on the show today, we're talking about, of course, news, of course. There's been a decline in COVID across England since January, and there's a React study that's going to be showing about it, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we're also going to be talking about commercial TV channels, which is uniting to be screening COVID vaccine myth-busting video, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Oh, and by the way, we'll talk a little bit about national days as well. And that's everything that's coming up on the show today. Okay, so we're going to start off now then by talking about what's in the news today, and it's to do with we're going to kick off by talking about declining in COVID across England since January. Is kicking off the news, is kicking off all about it. So I'm going to talk about that now on the show because it's a very interesting thing to talk about. So it's been a strong decline in levels of COVID infections in England, and they say it's been since January this very year. And scientists have been tracking the epidemic. The Imperial College London's React study found infections had dropped by 2/3 across England since lockdown began, with an 80% fell in London as well. But virus levels are still very high, with 1 in 200 testing positive between the 4th and the 13th of this month. Now, there are similar levels that were actually seen in late September of last year, although there has been an inform of findings based on more than 85,000 swab tests from randomly selected people. They also suggest social distancing and restrictions are having a very bad impact there as well. And Professor Paul Elliott, the director of the programme at Imperial, said the drop in infection rates was really encouraging. Apparently it was very encouraging. It came as the Prime Minister Boris Johnson, he prepared to receive new data on the effort of a vaccine on the spread of COVID ahead of Monday's, which is next week, publication of a roadmap, which is what we will be looking at on that day. We're going to take a little bit of next week. We're going to take a little bit of look next week of the map. We'll take a little bit of a look, a little peek about that next week. Now, speaking yesterday, he said it was absolutely right to take a data, not dates approach to leaving lockdown, and stressed English England would ease measures. According to the Imperial College London team, during early to mid of this month, 0.51% of people in the study, they all tested positive in England, and it was down by 1.57% in early January back in London. Positive tests fell from 2.83 apparently, and just 54% over 6 weeks. A study's author, Professor Stephen Riley, described the fall in cases in London as dramatic. Apparently it was very dramatic, and they said that there had been a strong downward trend since January, and it was many hoped for, which is equivalent to halving of infections every 15 days. The researchers estimated the R number, the average number of people one infected person will pass the virus on to, was actually around 0.72%. But more than 20,000 COVID patients are currently in hospital in our country, and although new daily cases and hospital administrations are all falling as well, and they are still very relatively high. NHS England figures showed 80% of critical care beds were occupied in week to the 14th of February, which was Sunday just gone, and 4 days ago, and it was a straight fall from 83% the week before. There are apparently just under 4,800 patients in critical care at this very moment, and 6,000 beds are very available at the moment. So if you have got COVID while you're listening to the show today, do go to hospital, and then they will treat you there and make you feel better. Now, Professor Elliott told the BBC Radio 4's Today programme, nobody wants to be in lockdown any longer. Of course, we all don't want to be in lockdown any longer, but they all have to be. But a note of warning: the prevalence rates are still very high, and they are as high as they were back in September, and they were on an increase as well. And it was all high, and but it was all of English and sustainability in the capital South East and the Midlands. The East Midlands were as well, and it was failing as steeply in the North West, North East, Yorkshire and Humber as well, and it could all be linked to tougher lockdown rules which are all being introduced earlier in London and the South East of England. It was after a pre-Christmas surge in cases related to the more transferable virus variant, which was first discovered not up north, not anywhere like that. It was all discovered in Kent. Funny enough, I was very surprised when I heard it was actually discovered in Kent. It did make me think, oh my god. But the latest Public Health England, the December data also showed rates had fallen in every region. Now, the East Midlands had the highest rate of 177 per 100,000 people in the 7 days to 14th of February, but it was all down from 228 to that very previous week, apparently. So, The REACT report found falls in the infectious across all age groups, with 18 to 24-year-olds and 5 to 12-year-olds currently having the highest virus levels, although still below 1% apparently. But it all estimated the over 65s had the lowest levels of virus at 0.3%. Now, more young children have all been attending school during this lockdown. I mean, all the vulnerable people, my cousins have been attending school during lockdown, and they've all been last ones at which they have all been helped keep the virus levels slightly higher in these age groups. And it was the researchers that stressed opening schools to all children was a high priority, and there would have to be a trade-off as well. But Dr. Mary Boosted, she was said reopening with the current high rates of infections and hospitalisation would jeopardise full and sustained school reopening. She also added that the study identified groups that were more likely to get tested positive, including people of Asian ethnicity and those who are working in healthcare or care homes, people living in the most developed areas, and those in larger households as well. Professor Elliott said the study had not been in an impact from the vaccination programme on infections yet, and he was all with age groups seeing a drop in rates. That said, the team would keep a close eye when it had an effect on transmission. The researchers say signs may be visible by the time and final report is released in a matter of weeks, when a larger proportion of people will have been given protection. The report is yet to be peer-reviewed or published, and a study of GP records have found black and mixed heritage people in their 70s are being vaccinated against COVID at much lower rates, and celebrities have all been urging people from the ethnic majority continues to get the COVID vaccine. Have you got a video about that? Should we show the video on the show? Do you think we should? Oh, I don't think we should. But record members have applied to study nursing in UK universities amid the pandemic, and Boris Johnson is facing the fresh calls to comments at key workers suffering from long COVID, and surge testing is also being rolled out in areas of Leeds to detect and control the spread of the virus, which was identified in South Africa. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer is proposing a new savings scheme to let people have a stack in their national recovery. Okay, we'll leave that story there, I think. Okay, one more story then on the show today, because we are going to talk about famous people who are urging. Oh, we have got the video. We have got the people who are urging them to have the vaccine. Let's listen.
The vaccine does not contain the virus itself, only harmless elements from it.
Taking the vaccine is the only way to boost your immunity against COVID for you and your loved ones.
The vaccine was available quickly because of a global effort.
Because huge funds were made available by governments around the world.
So something that would normally take years took just months.
It's very, very rare for vaccines to have a long-term side effect. But what we do know is that COVID-19's long-term implications are deadly.
The COVID-19 vaccines have gone through the same strict processes and regulations as other vaccines such as for measles, mumps, rubella and TB.
There is no chip or tracker in the vaccine to keep watching where you go. Your mobile phone actually does a much better job of that. My mum's a key worker, and where she works, it's a lot of people from South Asian backgrounds, and so my brother and I were obviously very worried about her, and then we just assumed that she was going to be willing and ready to take the vaccine, and then when it came down to us actually discussing it with her, she said, I've actually got some doubts, and so it took us by surprise, but we sort of were able to talk to her about it and explain the various issues, and now she feels okay to take it. But it just feels so heartbreaking to me that people from ethnic minorities are sort of inflicting a degree of separation upon themselves from not trusting in this. And I understand all the reasons why, I've heard all the arguments, but I just feel so strongly that we need to make sure we dispel some of these myths so that people are getting involved and we can get ourselves out of this pandemic.
It's so important to keep repeating the message. And I love what Ramesh just said. I've got an 18-year-old son, and he would never take a message from me or a doctor. But when I told him that I was going to be on TV with Ramesh, he was so excited about it. And I think that's the thing. I think we obviously have a place as doctors, but I think everybody has a place. And I think this message is going to be a long, hard one, as Dr. Nikki Kanani, our GP leader, has said, recently. We're fighting two pandemics here. We're fighting the COVID virus, but we're also fighting this huge tsunami of misinformation that's coming out.
I've got to be really honest with you there. I didn't actually know half of them famous people. I only knew two of them. One of them, actually. Two or one of them. I didn't hardly know any of those famous people on there. It was Sanjeev Bansky, who I do know, and Meryl Stoll, never heard of her, and I never heard of Ramesh Karakala's out of them. They're all among the celebrities who feature in the video, which has previously been released online. It came out at 9:56pm last night. More stars have all been added to the version that's going to be screened on ITV Channel 4 and Channel 5. Oh yeah, okay. STV and various Sky TV channels are also going to be taking place on a TV roadblock. The film will not be shown on the BBC apparently because the Corporation's Charter prevents is from taking part in campaigns, but the issues is that it raises some of the parliaments will feature in the TV and radio programmes on today. Now, Addy Ray, I know him. I know who he is.
Should it fall on Asian celebrities to have to record a video like this? We haven't expected Emma Thompson or Hugh Grant or Ed Sheeran to record a video for the rest of society. Now, we don't mind doing it. It needs to be done. But as a longer term objective, I think politicians and media need to think about how are we best going to connect with these audiences. And I'll give you an example. For most parts of the summer, the discussion and debate was, when will the pubs reopen? How long will the pubs stay open until? Is a Scotch egg a substantial meal? For lots of Muslim people and lots of Asian people, it has absolutely no bearing on their cultural life. We were very worried, and quite rightly, whether we were going to celebrate Christmas. The same debate was not had about Eid, Vaisakhi or Diwali. These things matter to those people. And those people are people on the front line. They're NHS workers. They're our key workers. They're the ones that deliver our food to our door. So I think all those things matter, and those are things that we have to do better at, I think, as we go forward. And then it won't fall on people like me and Mira and Moen to have to do these videos, hopefully.
Now, Adol Ray, I know him quite well because he presents Lingo on ITV in the afternoons about 3 o'clock. And I also know him because he's on Good Morning Britain as well. But I never actually knew he was the one who created Citizen Khan. He co-ordinated the video and said that we are in unexpected times. And the fact remains, the pandemic disappointingly affects people from ethnic minority communities. It's heartening to see all the major broadcasters come together in an equal and community television broadcast at this critical time. The campaign comes and growing concern about the uptake of COVID vaccines among Black, Asian and other ethnic minority communities in the UK. The latest advance came from a study published overnight of GP records, and fake news about the vaccine had actually been a particularly problem in the South Asian community, and it's all addressed in the Take the Vaccine video. There's no, I've had my first vaccine, so I know how they all feel. There's no chip or tracker apparently in the vaccine to keep watching whether you